Topic 3.6, dividing fractions. You have now used grouping to divide a whole number by a fraction, and you have also used sharing to divide a fraction by a whole number. How about dividing a fraction by a fraction? Take this problem for example. 2/3 divided by 1/6. This could be represented on a number line. So let's draw a number line, start at 0 always, and we will go to the number 1. And let's label the thirds now. This would be 1/3, and this would be 2/3. Now let's label the sixths on this number line. This would be 1/6. This would actually be 2/6. These two fractions are equivalent fractions, which just means they have the same value. 1/3 is the same as 2/6, which is the same as 3/9, and so on. This would be the third sixth. This would be the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth would be the whole. 6/6, or 6/6 is a whole. So now look at our number line and try to determine how many sixths there are in 2/3. Well, 2/3 is right here. How many sixths do you see in that space? So between 0 and 2/3. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So your answer is going to be 4. Now we can solve that same problem, 2/3 divided by 1/6, using cross multiplication. That is, multiplying across. And in order to do that, we're going to use the first fraction. We're going to multiply it by the reciprocal of the second fraction, which would be 6/1. And then we can multiply straight across and simplify. Or if you wanted to simplify, I see a common factor here between 3 and 6. They both share the factor 3. So we could divide each of those by 3 to simplify before we multiply. In any case, I'm going to multiply first for this example. So 2 times 6 is 12, and 3 times 1 is 3. Then I'm going to simplify. 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. How about this problem? 5/6 divided by 1/3. Let's label the thirds on this number line. 1/3 would be here. 2/3 would be here. These are equivalent fractions. And 3/3, of course, would be a whole over here. So now, how many thirds are there in 5/6? Here's 5/6. Up to here gives us 2 whole thirds. 2/3 brings us to there. And then we have 1 additional jump here, from 4/6 to 5/6. Okay? Now that jump is 1/6. From 4 to 5, it's 1/6. Now, 1/6 is half of 2/6, right? 1 is half of 2. 1 is half of 2, and it just so happens that we're dealing with sixths. So it sounds a little confusing, but when you think about it as 1 being half of 2, kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So we know that 2/6 and 1/3 are equivalent fractions. And if we know that 1/6 is half of 2/6, then it's actually half of 1/3 as well. Which means that our answer is 2 1/2. Okay, 1/3 brings us to 2/6. 2/3 brings us to 4/6, and then we go another 1/2 of a third to get to 5/6. One is by using a method where you use the common denominator of the two fractions to help you. So 5/6 divided by 1/3. We know already from this problem that 1/3 and 2/6 are equivalent fractions. And all we did to do that is we actually took each of these numbers, the numerator and the denominator, and we multiplied them both by 2. In fact, you can do that. We can multiply them by any number. Say 10. 1 times 10 is 10. 3 times 10 is 30. So 10 over 30 is an equivalent fraction of 1/3. So in this case, we just multiplied each of those by 2 to make it 2/6. Now the denominator is the same here as it is here. So we can take 5/6 and we can now divide it by 2/6. Okay, so using our number line, we're doing basically the same thing now using the number line, except we're looking for how many 2/6 go into 5/6. So there's 1, 2, and then a 1/2 here, right? Because we're not at 6/6. That would be 3. We're right down the middle, right in a 1/2. So 2 1/2 is our answer here. Let's try a couple more examples. Take 7/12 divided by 1/4, for example. Now, for this problem, I'm going to show you the most efficient way of multiplying fractions, and that is using cross multiplication. Cross multiplication just refers to multiplying across from one another, and that can be represented by rewriting the equation as 7/12 multiplied by 4/1. And 4/1 is simply the reciprocal of 1/4. Okay, just the opposite of 1/4. Now, once you have both fractions like this, well, you should be fairly comfortable with multiplying fractions at this point. So you can either multiply straight across and then simplify, or simplify first and then multiply straight across. This one, I noticed there's common factors between 12 and 4. 4 is a common factor of both of those. So I'm going to simplify first, and then I'm going to multiply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this by 4 and make it 1. I'll divide this by 4 and make it 3. And then I'll multiply straight across. 7 times 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. And of course, we can convert this into a mixed number. 3 goes into 7 2 whole times, and there's 1 left over to make 7, and that 1 is a third. Now, how about the next one? 8/5 divided by 3/4. So again, we can use this cross multiplication technique. So 8/5, we're going to change the division symbol to a multiplication symbol and use the reciprocal of this fraction here, which would be 4/3. And then we can try to simplify first and multiply, or just multiply straight across. Now, in this problem, I don't see any common factors here or here, so we're safe to just multiply straight across. 8 times 4 is 32. 5 times 3 is 15. And then we can, again, simplify this into a mixed number. So 15 goes into 32 2 whole times to make 30, and then 2/15 more to make 32.